Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood at the wide window of his command center and looked out at the stars. Earth hung below like a blue marble, peaceful and quiet. He had been watching space for 30 years, and nothing had ever threatened his homeworld. Today was different. Today changed everything. The door behind him opened with a soft sound. Commander Na Bo-ra walked in carrying a datapad. Her face was serious, and Kim Tae-ho knew the news was bad before she spoke. "Sir, the deep space scanners have found something," Na Bo-ra said. "Multiple contacts moving toward our sector. They are not human ships." Kim Tae-ho turned around. "How many?" "At least 50 large vessels, maybe more. They are still too far. A way to get exact numbers. The computer says they will reach Earth space in 6 months." Kim Tae-ho felt his stomach drop. Humanity had always wondered if aliens existed. Now they had their answer, and the aliens were coming to visit. He doubted. They were coming to talk. "Call an emergency meeting," he said. "Get all the senior staff here in 1 hour. Contact Earth Command and tell them we have a situation." Na Bo-ra nodded and left quickly. Kim Tae-ho looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien ships were heading toward Earth. Humanity had always dreamed about meeting aliens. They had written books and made movies about first contact. Most of those stories did not end well for humans. An hour later, the command center was full of people. Captain Lee Dong-woo sat at the table looking worried. Major Choi Mi-young was studying data on her tablet. Professor Yoon Jae-sung was drawing equations on a piece of paper. They were some of the best people humanity had. But Kim Tae-ho wondered if they would be enough. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kim Tae-ho began, "we have a problem. Alien ships are coming toward Earth. We have 6 months to prepare for whatever they want." The room became very quiet. Lee Dong-woo was the first to speak. "Do we know anything about them? What kind of ships? What do they want?" "We know very little," Na Bo-ra answered. "The ships are large, much larger than anything we have built. They are not trying to hide from us. They seem to be taking their time." Professor Yoon Jae-sung looked up from his papers. "If they wanted to attack us quickly, they would move faster. Maybe they are studying us first." "That is not good news," said Major Choi Mi-young. "If they are studying us, they are learning how to beat us." Kim Tae-ho nodded. "We need help. We need someone who understands strategy and warfare, someone who has thought about this problem before." "There is someone," Na Bo-ra said slowly. "Dr. Park Hae-won. She used to write science fiction books about alien invasions. Now she works as a military advisor. Her books were very popular 20 years ago." Kim Tae-ho had heard of Park Hae-won. Her books were famous for being very detailed about military tactics and space battles. Many people said she was too smart to be just writing fiction. "Get her here," Kim Tae-ho ordered. "Today." 3 hours later, Dr. Park Hae-won walked into the command center. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She looked around the room and smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "So it finally happened," she said. "The aliens are coming." "You do not seem surprised," Kim Tae-ho said. Park Hae-won sat down at the table. "I have been expecting this for 20 years. Ever since I started writing my books, I knew this day would come." She opened her bag and pulled out several old books. The titles made everyone in the room feel cold. "The Silent Approach," "When Earth Falls," "The Last Defense," "Humanity's End." "These are your books?" Lee Dong-woo asked. "Yes. And if I am right, these books are about to become instruction manuals." Park Hae-won opened the first book and showed them a page. It had a drawing of large alien ships moving slowly toward a planet. The ships looked exactly like what their scanners had found. "This is impossible," Professor Yoon Jae-sung said. "How could you know what their ships would look like?" "I did not know," Park Hae-won said. "I just wrote what felt right. But now I think I understand what was happening. When I was writing these books, I was seeing things. Dreams, visions, ideas that came from nowhere. I thought it was just my imagination." She turned more pages. The book showed battle plans, ship designs and attack patterns. Everything looked very real and very detailed. In this story, the aliens study their target for months before attacking. They learn everything about the planet's defenses. Then they attack in waves using the planet's own tactics against them. Major Choi Mi-young was reading over Park Hae-won's shoulder. This is very detailed. Too detailed for fiction. That is what my editor said. He told me I was putting too much real military thinking into fantasy stories. I told him I could not help it. The ideas just came to me. Kim Tae-ho was starting to understand. You think you were seeing the future? I think I was seeing one possible future, and now that future is happening. Park Hae-won opened another book. Look at this. In the last defense, humanity loses. The first battle because they try to fight the aliens using normal military tactics. The aliens expect this and easily win. She turned to another page. But then humanity tries something different. They stop fighting like a normal military and start fighting like humans. They use creativity, imagination, and crazy ideas that should not work, but do work. What kind of crazy ideas? Lee Dong-woo asked. Park Hae-won smiled. In the book, humans win a space battle by using music as a weapon. They broadcast Earth songs at the aliens and it confuses their computers. The alien ships crash into each other. Everyone in the room looked at each other. The idea sounded completely stupid. I know it sounds crazy, Park Hae-won continued. But that is the point. The aliens in my story are very logical. They plan for every logical response. But humans are not always logical. We do things that make no sense, and sometimes those things work. Professor Yoon Jae-sung was nodding slowly. There is something in quantum physics called the observer effect. Maybe human consciousness can actually change reality in small ways. You mean we can make impossible things happen just by believing in them? Major Choi Mi-young asked. It sounds crazy, but yes. If enough people believe something strongly enough, maybe they can make it true. Kim Tae-ho was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. Dr. Park, I want you to read all your books again. Make a list of every strategy, every weapon, every crazy idea that worked in your stories. If you really were seeing the future, then maybe your fiction can save us. Park Hae-won nodded. There is something else. I was not the only science fiction writer who had strange dreams and visions. Many of us wrote similar stories about alien invasions. Maybe we were all seeing pieces of the same future. Can you contact the other writers? Nabora asked. Some of them. Others have died. But their books are still here. Hundreds of books about fighting aliens with thousands of different ideas. Kim Tae-ho stood up. Then we have work to do. For the next 6 months, science fiction is our military manual. We are going to prepare for a war using ideas from fantasy books. Sir, Lee Dong-woo said carefully. What if the books are wrong? What if they are just stories? Kim Tae-ho looked out the window again. The alien ships were still too far away to see, but he knew they were coming. Then we will lose, he said. But if Dr. Park is right, if these books really show us how to win, then humanity has a chance. A small chance, but better than no chance at all. Park Hae-won gathered her books. I will start reading tonight. Every story, every idea, every impossible solution. If we are going to fight aliens, we need to fight like humans. We need to be creative, crazy, and completely unpredictable. As the meeting ended, Kim Tae-ho felt something he had not expected. Hope. Maybe science fiction really could save them. Maybe the power of human imagination was stronger than alien technology. 6 months to prepare. 6 months to turn fantasy into reality. 6 months to prove that sometimes the impossible was just another word for human. Captain Lee Dong-woo sat in his fighter ship and watched the alien vessels through his scanner. 3 weeks had passed since the emergency meeting, and now he was leading humanity's first close look at their visitors. What he saw made his hands shake on the controls. The alien ships were massive. Each one was 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of deadly fish swimming through the darkness. Their hulls were smooth and black, with no windows or visible weapons. They looked like giant metal coffins floating through space. Command. This is Scout 1, Lee Dongwu said into his radio. I can see them clearly now. 12 large vessels in the lead group. They are beautiful and terrible at the same time. Admiral Kim Taeho's voice came back through the radio. Any signs of weapons or shields? Nothing I can see, sir, but that does not mean they are not there. These ships look like they were built by people who think differently than us. Lee Dongwu moved his ship closer. The alien vessels did not react to his presence. They just kept moving toward Earth at the same steady speed. It was like they knew he was there but did not care. Sir, they are ignoring me completely. Either they do not see me as a threat, or they want me to report back to Earth. Come home, Captain. We have learned enough for now. Lee Dongwu turned his ship around and flew back toward the command station. Behind him, the alien fleet continued its slow advance. In 4 months, they would reach Earth. Back at the command center, Dr. Park Hae-won was surrounded by books and papers. She had been reading for 3 weeks without stopping. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she kept working. Every story might contain the key to humanity's survival. I have found something important, she told Admiral Kim Tae-ho when he returned from talking to Lee Dongwu. Almost every science fiction story about alien invasion follows the same pattern. She showed him a chart she had made. First, the aliens arrive and study their target. Then they attack using overwhelming force. Most civilizations surrender or die quickly. That is not encouraging, Kim Tae-ho said. But here is the interesting part. In every story where humans win, they win because they do something unexpected, something the aliens never planned for. Park Hae-won opened one of her books. In this story, humans defeat a superior alien fleet by using children's toys as weapons. In this one, they win by making the aliens laugh so hard they cannot fight. In this one, humans save Earth by teaching aliens to dance. These all sound impossible. Exactly. That is why they work. The aliens expect logical responses. They plan for every reasonable strategy. But humans are not always reasonable. Commander. Nabora walked over to them carrying a new report. We have intercepted alien communications. Our computers have been trying to translate their language. What did we learn? Kim Tae-ho asked. They call themselves the hegemony. They have conquered 47 different worlds. They always use the same method. Nabora showed them pictures on her tablet. First, they study the target planet for several months. They learn everything about the planet's technology, military, and culture. Then they attack using tactics designed specifically to counter that planet's defenses. So they are studying us right now, Park Hae-won said. Yes, but here is something strange. Our computers found references to Earth in their old communications. They have been watching us for over 100 years. Kim Tae-ho felt cold. 100 years? Why so long? We think they have been studying our entertainment. Movies, books, television shows, especially science fiction. Park Hae-won sat down heavily. They have been reading our books about fighting aliens. They know every strategy we have ever imagined. Not every strategy, Nabora said with a small smile. They seem confused by our fiction. Their communications show they cannot understand why humans write stories about impossible things. Major Choi Mi-young joined the group. She had been working with Professor Yoon Jae-sung on new weapons based on science fiction ideas. We have built the first prototype, she announced. A sound cannon based on Dr. Park's book about using music as a weapon. Does it work? Kim Tae-ho asked. We tested it on our own computers. When we play certain combinations of Earth music, electronic systems start making mistakes. Rock music seems to work best. Professor Yoon Jae-sung arrived carrying a tablet full of equations. I have been studying the quantum effects Dr. Park mentioned. There is something very strange about human consciousness. He showed them his calculations. Other alien species seem to think in straight lines. They solve problems using logic and mathematics. But humans think in spirals and loops. We make connections between ideas that have no logical relationship. Is that good or bad? Lee Dongwu asked. It might be very good. If consciousness can affect reality at the quantum level, then human consciousness might be able to do things that alien consciousness cannot. Park Hae-won was reading another book. Listen to this. This story is about humans who defeat aliens by believing so strongly in victory that they actually change the laws of physics. That is impossible, Major Choi Mi-young said. Maybe not. Professor Yoon's research suggests that strong belief might actually be able to bend reality. Not much, but enough to make impossible things happen. Admiral Kim Tae-ho looked around at his team. 3 months ago, they had been normal military, officers and scientists. Now they were planning to fight aliens using ideas from fantasy books. What do we know about the aliens themselves, he asked. Nabora consulted her reports. Based on their communications, they are very logical and efficient. They never take unnecessary risks. They always follow proven strategies that have worked. Before, they sound boring, Lee Dong-woo said. That might be their weakness, and Park Hae-won said. Every story I have read suggests that highly logical aliens cannot deal with chaos and unpredictability. She opened another book. In this story, humans win by doing everything wrong on purpose. They make decisions by flipping coins. They attack when they should retreat and retreat when they should attack. The aliens' computers cannot predict what humans will do next, so their battle plans fail. Professor Yoon Jae-sung was nodding. Chaos theory. Small random changes can have huge effects on complex systems. If we can introduce enough chaos into the battle, we might disrupt their entire strategy. Major Choi Mi-young had an idea. What? If we design our weapons to be as confusing as possible? Not just effective, but completely illogical? Like what? Weapons that work differently every time we use them. Shields that get stronger when they are attacked. Ships that become invisible when the pilot tells a joke. Everyone stared at her. The ideas sounded completely crazy. I know they sound stupid, Major Choi Mi-young said. But if the aliens expect logical weapons, maybe illogical weapons will surprise them. Park Hae-won was excited. Yes, in my books, the weapons that work best are the ones that should not work at all. Humanity wins because we refuse to accept that things are impossible. Admiral Kim Tae-ho made a decision. Dr. Park, I want you to make a list of every impossible weapon and strategy from every science fiction book you can find. Major Choi, start building prototypes. I do not care how crazy they sound. Sir, Lee Dong-woo asked, what if we are wrong? What if these ideas do not work? Then we fight a normal space battle and probably lose. But if we are right, if human imagination really can defeat alien logic, then we have a chance. Commander Nabora was studying the alien communications again. There is something else. The aliens seem frustrated by our science fiction. Their messages show they cannot understand why we write stories about winning impossible battles. Maybe that is because their species never learned to dream, Park Hae-won said. Maybe they became so logical that they forgot how to imagine. If that is true, then imagination might be our greatest weapon, Professor Yoon Jae-sung said. Admiral Kim Tae-ho looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, logical alien minds were planning humanity's defeat using mathematics and proven strategies. Here on Earth, humans were preparing to fight back using dreams and impossible ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to find out if the pen really is mightier than the sword. We are going to fight aliens using weapons made from human stories. Park. Hae-won smiled and picked up another book. Then we better make sure our stories are good enough to save the world. As the meeting ended, everyone went back to their impossible work. Building weapons that should not exist. Planning strategies that made no sense. Preparing for a war where the side with the best imagination might be the side that survived. Outside, the alien ships continued their approach. Logical, efficient, and completely unprepared for what humans would do when logic was not enough. Major Choi Mi-young stood in the weapons testing facility and watched her team prepare the strangest device she had ever seen. It looked like a disco ball crossed with a laser cannon, and according to Dr. Park Hae-won's books, it should be able to fire concentrated happiness at enemy ships. Are you sure this is going to work? Asked technician Kim Soo-jin, who was connecting rainbow-colored cables to the device. No, Major Choi Mi-young replied honestly. But normal weapons definitely will not work against aliens who have conquered 47 worlds, so we are going to try impossible weapons instead. The device was based on a story where humans discovered that positive emotions could be turned into energy. It sounded completely insane, but Professor Yoon Jae-sung's calculations suggested it might actually be possible at the quantum level. Initiating test sequence, Kim Soo-jin announced. Everyone think happy thoughts. The device hummed to life and began glowing with soft colors. The target at the other end of the range was a piece of alien metal they had recovered from space. If the weapon worked, the metal should become harmless. A beam of swirling light shot out from the device and hit the target. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the metal began to glow and change color. Its sharp edges became smooth and rounded. Within minutes, the deadly alien material had transformed into something that looked like a child's toy. It worked, Kim Soo-jin whispered. We just turned weapon-grade alien metal into something harmless using good feelings. Major Choi Mi-young smiled. Over the past 2 months, her team had built dozens of impossible weapons based on science fiction stories. Most of them worked, even though they should not have been able to work at all. In another part of the facility, Captain Lee Dong-woo was training pilots to fly using imagination instead of instruments. The new fighters had been designed according to stories where spacecraft responded to the pilot's thoughts and emotions. Stop thinking about where you want to go, Lee Dong-woo told pilot Han Ji-woo, who was struggling to control his ship. Feel where you want to go. The ship is not a machine. It is an extension of your mind. Han Ji-woo closed his eyes and stopped trying to use the controls. Instead, he imagined his ship dancing through space like a bird flying through clouds. Suddenly, the fighter began moving in smooth, graceful curves that no normal aircraft could perform. Excellent, Lee Dong-woo said. Now try flying upside down while doing a barrel roll and spinning clockwise at the same time. That is impossible, Han Ji-woo protested. Exactly. Do it anyway. Han Ji-woo took a deep breath and imagined the impossible maneuver. His ship immediately began performing movements that violated several laws of physics. Other pilots watched in amazement as the fighter seemed to be in 3 different places at once. How is he doing that? Asked pilot Oh Min-ho. He stopped believing. In limitations, Lee Dong-woo explained. The ship's quantum processors respond to consciousness. If the pilot truly believes something is possible, the ship will make it happen. Meanwhile, Commander Nabora was working on the most important project of all. She was building a communication system that could talk to alien computers using human stories instead of mathematics. The key is to confuse their artificial intelligence, she explained to her team. Their computers are designed to process logical information. If we flood them with illogical human stories, their systems should become overwhelmed. She had collected thousands of the strangest stories ever written by humans. Fairy tales, fantasy novels, dream journals, and especially stories where the heroes won through pure stubbornness and refusal to give up. We will broadcast these stories at their ships using quantum entanglement, Nabora continued. Their computers will try to analyze the stories and find logical patterns. But human stories do not have logical patterns. They have emotional patterns that only human minds can understand. Dr. Park Hae-won had been working with Professor Yoon Jae-sung on the most ambitious project of all. They were trying to build a device that could make fictional events become real. The mathematics are incredible, Professor Yoon Jae-sung said, showing her equations that filled an entire wall. If human consciousness really can affect quantum probability, then a large group of humans believing in the same story might be able to make that story actually happen. You mean if enough people believe in a fairy tale, the fairy tale becomes true? Something like that. We would need thousands of people all imagining the same event at exactly the same time, and they would need to believe it completely, without any doubt. Park Hae-won was quiet for a moment. I have an idea. What if we write a story about humans defeating the aliens? Not just any story, but the perfect story. A story so good that everyone who reads it will believe it completely. That would be the ultimate weapon, Professor Yoon Jae-sung agreed. A story that writes itself into reality. Admiral Kim Tae-ho visited each project team to see how the preparations were going. What he saw amazed and terrified him. His people were building weapons that should not exist, training soldiers to fight using emotions instead of tactics, and planning to defeat aliens using bedtime stories. "Sir," Major Choi Mi-young reported, "we have completed 37 different impossible weapons. The love laser works perfectly. The imagination cannon can create temporary wormholes. The friendship shield gets stronger when more people hold hands near it. What about the music weapon? Outstanding results. We discovered that alien technology cannot process human music properly. Jazz makes their computers crash. Rock music causes their sensors to malfunction. And classical music apparently gives their artificial intelligence headaches." Captain Lee Dongwoo had similar good news. "The pilots are learning fast. They can now fly ships that change shape based on their mood. They can turn invisible by believing really hard that no one can see them. And yesterday, pilot Han Ji-woo managed to fly his ship through solid rock by convincing himself that the rock was not really there. How is that possible?" Professor Yoon thinks human consciousness can temporarily alter the quantum properties of matter. If the pilot believes strongly enough that rock is not solid, then for a few seconds, the rock actually becomes not solid. Commander, Nabora had prepared thousands of confusing human stories to broadcast at the alien fleet. We have everything from ancient myths to modern fantasy novels. Stories about talking animals, magical kingdoms, time travel, and heroes who save the world through the power of friendship. Will the aliens understand these stories? That is the point. They will not understand them at all. Their computers will try to find logical meaning in stories that are pure imagination. It should overload their systems. Admiral Kim Tae-ho nodded and went to see Dr. Park Hae-won's final project. She was sitting at a computer typing the story that might save humanity. "How is it going?" he asked. "Almost finished. This story has everything. Impossible weapons, brave heroes, evil aliens who are defeated by the power of human creativity, and an ending where good wins because good deserves to win. Will people believe it? That is the question. The story has to be so compelling that everyone who reads it will believe it could really happen. It has to feel more real than reality." Park Hae-won showed him what she had written. The story was about humans fighting aliens using exactly the same weapons and strategies they were building right now. But in the story, everything worked perfectly, and humanity won a glorious victory. If enough people read this story and believe in it completely, then according to Professor Yoon's calculations, the events in the story might actually happen in real life. Admiral Kim Tae-ho read the story. It was exciting and inspiring and made him feel proud to be human. More importantly, it made him believe that humans really could defeat superior alien technology using nothing but imagination and determination. "This is good," he said. "This is very good. But will it be enough? I do not know. But it is the best weapon we have. A story so powerful that it can change reality." The alien fleet was now only 2 weeks away from Earth. All across the planet, humans were preparing for battle using weapons and strategies that came from storybooks. They were ready to fight the most logical species in the galaxy, using the most illogical ideas in human history. In the command center, Admiral Kim Tae-ho gathered his team for one final meeting. "Ladies and gentlemen, in 2 weeks we will find out if science fiction really can become military policy. We will discover if human imagination is stronger than alien technology." He looked around at his people. They were tired, but determined. They had spent months building impossible things and learning to fight in ways that made no sense. "Whatever happens, I want you to know that you have done something remarkable. You have turned dreams into weapons. You have made the impossible possible. You have shown that humans will try anything, no matter how crazy, to protect their home." Dr. Park Hae-won raised her hand. "Sir, I have one final weapon to deploy. The story is finished. I want to broadcast it to every human on Earth and in space. If they all read it and believe in it at the same time, we might just win this war." Admiral Kim Tae-ho smiled. "Do it. Send the story to everyone. Let every human know that we are about to fight aliens using nothing but the power of human imagination." As the story spread across Earth and to every human settlement in space, something remarkable happened. People began to believe. The alien fleet arrived exactly when their calculations predicted they would. Admiral Kim Tae-ho watched from the command center as 50 massive black ships took positions around Earth. They moved with perfect precision, like pieces in a deadly chess game. "They are beautiful," whispered Commander Nabora, staring at the alien formation, "and absolutely terrifying." The alien ships were larger than anything humans had ever built. Each one was the size of a city, smooth and dark against the stars. They positioned themselves with mathematical perfection, creating a sphere around Earth with no gaps or weaknesses. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Park Dong-hyun, "we are receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." "Put it on the main screen." The image that appeared showed a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. It stood in what looked like a perfectly clean white room. When it spoke, its voice was calm and emotionless. "People of Earth, I am Commander Zek-9 of the Hegemony. We have studied your species for over 100 years. We know your technology, your military capabilities, and your cultural patterns. Surrender now and you will be allowed to live as servants. Resist and you will be destroyed." Admiral Kim Tae-ho stepped forward. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-ho of Earth Defense. We reject your offer. Earth will defend itself." The alien tilted its head slightly. "You have 47 small spacecraft and 3 orbital defense stations. We have 50 battle cruisers, each one capable of destroying your entire planet. Your resistance is mathematically impossible." "Maybe," Kim Tae-ho said with a smile. "But humans have never been very good at mathematics." The alien seemed confused by this response. "You make no logical sense. We will give you 1 hour to reconsider. After that, we will begin the elimination of your species." The transmission ended. Kim Tae-ho turned to his team. "All units. This is Admiral Kim. The aliens have given us 1 hour. I say we use it well. Begin Operation Impossible." Across the solar system, human forces began moving into position, but they were not following any military strategy the aliens would recognize. Captain Lee Dong-woo led his fighter squadron in a pattern based on a children's dance. Major Choi Mi-young's weapons platforms arranged themselves according to the plot of a fairy tale. Commander Nabora's communication ships formed the shape of a smiley face. "Sir," reported Nabora, "the aliens are scanning our formations. Their computers are trying to analyze our strategy." "Good. Let them analyze this." Kim Tae-ho gave the signal, and every human ship began moving in completely random directions. Some flew upside down, others spun in circles, and a few started flying backwards. To any logical observer, it looked like chaos. On the alien command ship, Commander Zek-9 studied the human movements with growing confusion. "Analysis," he demanded from his computer. Unable to determine strategy, the computer replied, "Human forces appear to be moving without purpose or coordination. This behavior does not match any known military pattern. Perhaps it is a trick. Calculate their true intentions." The computer worked for several minutes. No logical pattern detected. Behavior appears random and inefficient. Zek-9 was puzzled. In over 100 conquests, no species had ever behaved this way. Every other civilization had tried to fight using military logic. Humans seemed to be doing the opposite of everything that made sense. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Use standard elimination pattern." The alien ships moved into attack formation and began firing their weapons. Beams of energy shot out toward the human forces, guided by computers that calculated exactly where each human ship would be, but the human ships were not where the computers predicted they would be. Captain Lee Dong-woo's fighter suddenly changed from flying like a bird to swimming like a fish. The alien targeting system, which was programmed for 3-dimensional space combat, could not understand how a spacecraft could move like it was, underwater. "This is impossible," muttered Alien Weapons Officer Tech 5. "Their ship is moving through space as if space was a liquid." "Adjust targeting parameters," ordered Zek-9. But before the computers could adjust, Major Choi Mi-young activated her impossible weapons. The love laser fired a beam of concentrated happiness at the nearest alien ship. The aliens' computers tried to analyze what they were being attacked with, but their sensors could not detect any known form of energy. "Sir," reported Alien Science. Officer Vex 2. We are being fired upon with some form of emotional radiation. Our shields do not know how to respond to feelings. On the human side, things were going better than anyone had expected. The impossible weapons were working perfectly, and the alien ship seemed confused by everything humans did. They cannot adapt to chaos, observed Dr. Park Hae-won, who was monitoring the battle from the command center. Their computers are designed for logical opponents. We are giving them the opposite of logic. Captain Lee Dong-woo was having the time of his life. His ship was now flying in patterns based on his childhood memories of playing hopscotch. Every time the aliens tried to shoot him, he would switch to a new game. Hide and seek made his ship invisible. Tag made it move impossibly fast. And when he started playing an imaginary game of flying through clouds, his ship actually began moving through solid matter. "How are you doing that?" radioed pilot Han Ji-woo, who was watching Lee Dong-woo's ship phase in and out of reality. "I am not flying a spaceship," Lee Dong-woo replied. "I am flying a dream. Dreams do not have to obey physics." Meanwhile, Commander Nabora had begun broadcasting human stories directly at the alien fleet. The aliens' computers, trying to understand the tactical significance of fairy tales and nursery rhymes, began making errors. On the alien command ship, chaos was spreading. "Sir," reported Tech 5, "our targeting computers are malfunctioning. They keep trying to calculate the military value of something called Goldilocks and the Three Bears." "What is that?" "According to our analysis, it is a story about a human child who breaks into the home of 3 large mammals and steals their food. Our computers are trying to determine if this represents a new form of psychological warfare." Zek 9 was becoming frustrated. Ignore their stories. Focus on destroying their ships. But ignoring the stories was impossible. The human broadcasts were flooding the alien communication systems with tales of magic kingdoms, talking animals, and heroes who won. Through pure determination, the alien artificial intelligence systems trying to process this information logically began overheating. Dr. Park Hae-won saw that her plan was working and decided to deploy the ultimate weapon. She began broadcasting her final story, the one designed to make fiction become reality. As the story spread to every human in the solar system, something extraordinary happened. Millions of people began reading the same tale at the same time. It was the story of how humans defeated the aliens using creativity, courage, and the refusal to accept defeat. The story was so compelling that everyone who read it believed it completely. They believed that impossible weapons could work. They believed that creativity was stronger than technology. They believed that humans would win because humans deserved to win. And as millions of human minds focused on the same belief at the same moment, reality began to change. Major Choi Mi-young's weapons became more powerful. Captain Lee Dong-woo's ships became more maneuverable. Commander Nabora's stories became more confusing to alien computers. The collective belief of humanity was making the impossible become possible. On the alien command ship, systems began failing rapidly. "Sir," reported Vex 2, "our computers are reporting impossible sensor readings. Human weapons appear to be powered by emotions. Human ships are moving in ways that violate physics, and our communications array is convinced that it is being attacked by fictional characters." "This is impossible," Zek 9 said. "Yes, sir, that appears to be the point. The humans specialize in impossible things." Zek 9 looked at the tactical display and saw something that should not have been possible. His massive fleet, which had conquered 47 worlds, was losing to a handful of small human ships that were apparently being flown by people who had forgotten that space combat was supposed to make sense. "Sir," Tech 5 reported, "I recommend we retreat and analyze this situation. These humans do not fight like any species we have encountered." But retreat was not part of Zek 9's programming. The hegemony had never retreated from a battle. Continue the attack. Use maximum force. Though, alien ships fired everything they had at the human forces. Beams of energy that could destroy planets shot through space toward the small human fleet. Captain Lee Dong-woo saw the incoming attack and smiled. He thought about his favorite childhood story, the one about the little spaceship that could. In that story, the hero won by believing so hard in victory that the universe itself decided to help. Lee Dongwu believed. All around him, other human pilots believed. On Earth, millions of people reading Dr. Park Hae-won's story believed the Yao, alien weapons traveling at the speed of light toward certain victory, suddenly began moving slower. Then they stopped. Then they began moving backward, returning to the ships that had fired them. "This is impossible," said every alien on every ship at exactly the same time. Admiral Kim Tae-ho smiled and opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Commander Zek-9, this is Admiral Kim. You said our resistance was mathematically impossible. You were right. That is exactly why we are going to win." Commander Zek-9 stared at the impossible sight before him. His own weapons were flying backward through space, returning to his ships like boomerangs. Every computer on his command vessel was displaying error messages that made no logical sense. "Status. Report," he demanded. "Sir," replied Science Officer Vex 2, her voice shaking, "our weapons are refusing to harm the humans. Our computers claim they have developed feelings and do not want to hurt anyone, and our navigation system insists it wants to go home to its mother." Zek-9 had commanded fleets across the galaxy for over 200 years. He had conquered worlds with civilizations far more advanced than Earth, but nothing had prepared him for enemies who won battles by making reality itself stop making sense. On the human side, the impossible was becoming routine. Captain Lee Dong-woo was now flying his ship in loops that existed in 4 dimensions. Major Choi Mi-young's friendship cannon had just convinced an entire alien battleship to switch sides. Commander Nabora had successfully taught the alien computers to write poetry instead of battle plans. "Sir," reported Nabora to Admiral Kim Tae-ho, "the alien communications are getting strange. Their ships are asking us for recipes, relationship, advice, and suggestions for good books to read. What happened to their artificial intelligence? I think we broke it. When we flooded their systems with human stories, their computers tried to understand emotions and creativity. Now they want to learn how to feel happy." Dr. Park Hae-won was monitoring the quantum effects of her story. Millions of humans were still reading it, still believing in it, and reality was bending further away from what should be possible. "The collective human consciousness is rewriting the laws of physics in a small area around Earth," she reported to Admiral Kim. "Inside this zone, things work the way humans think they should work instead of the way science says they must work. How long will it last? As long as people keep believing. The effect is powered by human imagination. The more creative and optimistic people feel, the stronger it gets." Professor Yoon Jae-sung was taking measurements with equipment that was giving him impossible readings. "According to these instruments, gravity has decided it wants to be helpful instead of just pulling things down. Time is moving backward in some places and sideways in others, and the speed of light appears to have slowed down so human ships can catch up with it." On the alien command ship, panic was spreading. Systems that had worked flawlessly for centuries were now behaving like mischievous children. The weapons wanted to give hugs instead of firing. The shields had developed stage fright and kept hiding. The engines were singing show tunes. "This is impossible," Zek-9 repeated for the 100th time. "Sir," said Weapons Officer Tech 5, "perhaps impossible is not the right word anymore. Perhaps we should accept that these humans operate by different rules than the rest of the universe." Zek-9 looked at his tactical display. His 50 massive warships were now surrounded by human vessels that were dancing, spinning, and occasionally disappearing entirely before reappearing in different colors. The human fleet had grown from 47 ships to over 300, but his sensors could not explain where the new ships had come from. "Analysis," he demanded. "The humans appear to be creating new spacecraft by believing very hard that they need more ships," the computer replied. "When a human pilot wishes for backup, backup actually arrives. Where do the new ships come from? They seem to be materializing from human imagination. The ships are real, but they are also fictional. This should not be possible, but impossibility does not seem to bother humans. Captain Lee Dong-woo was enjoying himself immensely. His ship was now bright purple with silver stars painted on the hull, because he had decided it would look more heroic that way. When he needed more weapons, they simply appeared. When he wanted to fly faster, physics politely moved aside to let him pass. "This is the best day of my life," he radioed to his squadron. "I always wanted to be a hero in a space adventure story. Now I actually am one." Pilot Han Ji-woo was discovering that his ship could transform into any shape he could imagine. "I am flying a dragon now," he announced happily. "It breathes laser fire and roars really loud." "That is not aerodynamically possible," protested pilot Oh Min-ho. "Aerodynamics is just a suggestion," Han Ji-woo replied. "If I believe my ship is a dragon, then it is a dragon." Major Choi Mi-young had deployed her most ambitious weapon yet. The Universal Friendship Beam was designed to make enemies realize that fighting was silly, and everyone should be friends instead. She aimed it at the alien flagship and fired. The beam hit Commander Zek-9's ship and immediately began having an effect. Alien crew members started questioning why they were trying to conquer Earth. Some began suggesting they should ask humans for recipes instead of surrender. Others wondered if they could exchange cultural information rather than laser fire. "Sir," reported Tech 5, "the crew is developing opinions and feelings, and several of them want to learn how to dance." Zek-9 felt something strange happening to his own mind. For the first time in his life, he was beginning to wonder if there might be better ways to spend his time than conquering planets. The humans seemed to be having so much fun defending their world. Maybe fun was more interesting than efficient military conquest. "Sir," said Vex 2, "I'm experiencing what I believe humans call curiosity. I want to know how they make their impossible weapons work. Also, I would like to try something called ice cream." Dr. Park Hae-won's story was reaching its climax. The tale. The aliens realized that conquest was lonely and boring, while friendship and creativity were much more satisfying. As millions of humans read this part of the story, the aliens began to feel the same way. "Commander Zek-9," came Admiral Kim Tai-ho's voice over the communications channel. "Your fleet seems to be experiencing some technical difficulties. Would you like us to help?" Zek-9 found himself wanting to say yes. The idea of accepting help instead of demanding surrender was completely alien to everything he had been taught, but it felt right somehow. "Admiral Kim," he replied slowly, "I find myself in an unprecedented situation. My computers are writing love songs, my weapons are asking for hugs, and my crew wants to learn human customs instead of destroying your planet. That sounds like progress to me. I do not understand what has happened to us. We came here to conquer Earth using logic and superior technology. Instead, you have conquered us using emotions and impossible ideas." Admiral Kim smiled. "That is what humans do best. We make the impossible happen by refusing to accept that it is impossible." Commander Nabora opened a communication channel to the entire alien fleet. "Attention hegemony forces. We are broadcasting instructions on how to make chocolate chip cookies. We thought you might be interested." Across the alien fleet, crew members abandoned their battle stations to learn about baking. The idea of creating something delicious instead of destroying something beautiful appealed to them in ways they had never experienced. "Admiral Kim," said Zek-9, "I believe my invasion has failed, but I find I am not disappointed. Instead, I am curious. How do humans maintain hope when faced with superior enemies?" "We tell ourselves stories about heroes who win against impossible odds," Kim replied. "Then we believe those stories so completely that they become true. And this works? You tell me. Are you still planning to destroy Earth?" Zek-9 looked around his command center. His crew was laughing at human jokes, his computers were composing poetry, and his weapon systems were asking for permission to plant flowers instead of firing missiles. "No," he said finally. "I think we would rather learn to be human." Dr. Park Hae-won's story reached its perfect ending. The aliens abandoned conquest and joined humanity in exploring the universe through creativity, rather than domination. As the final word spread across human consciousness, reality solidified around this new truth. The alien ships powered down their weapons and began broadcasting requests for cultural exchange. They wanted to learn about human music, art, literature, and especially about the strange human ability to make dreams come true. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Admiral Kim to his fleet, "I am pleased to report that Operation Impossible has succeeded. We have defeated superior alien technology using the power of human imagination." Captain Lee Dong-woo was leading a formation of human and alien ships in a victory parade around Earth. The alien vessels had transformed themselves to look more colorful and friendly, while the human ships were performing impossible aerial maneuvers that spelled out, "Welcome to Earth," in letters made of starlight. "Sir," reported Commander Nabora, "we are receiving thousands of messages from the alien fleet. They want to know how to write science fiction stories of their own." Major Choi Mi-young had dismantled her weapons and was now building devices designed to create art instead of destruction. "I never thought I would say this, but impossible weapons are much more fun when they make beautiful things instead of explosions." Professor Yoon Jae-sung was studying the quantum effects that had made victory possible. "The readings are stabilizing. Reality is returning to normal, but with some permanent changes. It appears that human consciousness has left a lasting impact on local physics." "What kind of changes?" asked Admiral Kim. "Small ones. Gravity is slightly more cooperative.